Good morning, Patriots. This is my second video of the day. I plan to do 3 videos, and this video is my thoughts on the red flag laws. Okay, I'm going to break it down for the people that don't understand why gun owners are so pissed off about red flag laws. The basic simple fact is that anybody in this legislation, anybody can report you as crazy and a threat, and your guns and your weapons can be taken from you. And then when you go to court, you can't defend yourself because you're not allowed to be there. Okay? So we're not talking about a licensed psychologist saying you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We're not talking about a police officer saying, hey, this person has been in trouble with the law. They're not supposed to have guns, or they're, a threat. We're not talking about anybody professional. We're talking about anybody, period. So, like, say I get mad at you one day, and I'm like, hey, you know what? This jerk needs to learn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look on your profile, or if I know where you're from, I'm going to call the cops and say this person has guns, and they're a danger, and they're crazy. And under these laws, the cops will then come in and take your guns without listening to your side, without doing an investigation. They do the investigation afterwards, and then you have to prove you're innocent. Okay, see, that's where the big thing stands, is that they don't have to prove you're guilty. You have to prove you're innocent, thereby taking the cloak of innocence and destroying it. And anybody could do this. So these red flag laws, they give another person the power to deem whether or not you're allowed to have rights. And lefties and anti-gun people, I know you're like all excited about this red flag law thing, but I'm going to ask you to think about it. Do you really trust the government to stop at the Second Amendment? Do you? If they'll infringe on the Second Amendment, think about it. What other rights would they infringe on? Would they infringe on the First? How about the Fifth? How about the right to a speedy and fair trial? How about the right to your religion?
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. Which other rights would they be willing to infringe upon? You see where I'm going with this, right? Plus, on top of that, what you're not thinking about is these laws put the ability in other people's hands, depending on their mood and depending on if they like you or not, whether or not you should have rights. Now, there's one part of the legislation I can agree upon, and that's where cops can act before a crime is committed. I have never been fond of the stalker laws, where a police, you could complain, I have a stalker, and provide proof, and complain and report to the cops, and they can't do nothing until a crime is committed. Now, that's the part of the red flag laws I like, is that it can put a dangerous person on the radar. However, I think there's a better way of doing this legislation, and that is to have the cops investigate and then deem if the rights should be taken away. In other words, allow the cops to be cops. Allow detectives to be detectives. Allow the people to have their rights and to be deemed by a professional whether or not they're crazy or harmful. But the rest of the legislation, I do not agree with. Now, me, I don't like guns. Everybody knows it. I'm not ashamed to say it. I am not a fan of guns. But I don't have the right to take your rights away, nor say what your rights should and shouldn't be, just because I don't like something. You see what I'm saying? It'd be easy to say, hey, Sally Mae over there, she doesn't agree with me, so she shouldn't have the right to the freedom of speech. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like her freedom of speech. So Sally Mae, shut up. And then Sally Mae loses her rights because I don't agree with what she says? No. Everyone should have the right to decide what their Second Amendment should be. Whether it should be guns, whether it should be blades, whether it should be a whistle, or even down to the pettiest thing, the word no. And that's what we need to encourage our lawmakers to do, is vote no on these red flag laws. Because if the government has the right to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights, even if you don't like guns, imagine what they're going to try and infringe on next. No on red flag laws, because no one should have the right to determine who is and isn't a danger to society except professionals. Thank you, and that's Real with Robo. Y'all stay safe out there, and remember, no on red flag laws, because if they'll infringe on our Second Amendment rights, they'll infringe on all of our rights.